Hi, I'm Chris with the Ride Productions, and today we're going to talk about the Roadcrafter by Aerostich. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the variants that are available in the Roadcrafter. So you have the Roadcrafter Classic, you have the R3, and you have the R3 Lite. From a pricing perspective, you're looking at about $1,000 to $1,400, so this is a premium garment. Now, if you look in the used market in a lot of different forums like Adventure Rider and IBMW, you can probably find one of these for roughly $400 to $600. It might be about 10 years old, but it's still going to have a lot of life left to it. Now, Aerostich does also run some sales periodically where they have B stock or demo stock or returned units, and you can pick those up for 15–20% off typically. Additionally, if you do go up to Aerostich in Duluth and have them fit you for a suit there, you can save 10% off of your purchase price at that time too. If you can't make it up to Duluth, that's fine. They have a very good return policy, and it's very easy to do returns, and you can order off the rack shelf sizes and you'll be able to find something that fits for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the features that differentiate the Classic from the R3 from the R3 Lite. So the Classic is made of 500D Cordura, and then in the ballistic areas in the shoulders, elbows, and knees, there's 1000D Cordura. There's a double layer of that 500D Cordura in the seat, so this makes it a very nice high quality garment, and it's also Gore-Tex lined, so this garment is waterproof. The Classic Edition also has a liner, so there is a thin liner on the inside that is between you and the Cordura and Gore-Tex. Now, standard, these come with TF3 armor with the hard shell. I'll show you a little bit what the armor looks like later. And then the armor fits into sleeves. So in the shoulders, elbows, and knees, there's a sleeve that the armor actually goes into. Now, if you get into the stealth variant of the Classic, what happens there is the 3M reflective that's on the legs, in front of your chest, and across your back is deleted to make it a little bit more stealthy, of course. Okay, now we talk about the R3. That is the third generation Roadcrafter, and it's the latest version that Aerostich offers. So this construction is very similar. You have 500D Cordura for the main garment, 1000D Cordura in your impact areas. But the main difference is, you lose the liner, so there's no liner in the R3, and then your armor, instead of fitting to a sleeve, is actually attached via hook and loop. You still have that double layer of 500D in the seat. And then the other nice change that they did is there's a magnetic collar now. So the collar will actually stay down against your chest. On the Classic, it can have a little bit of a tendency to flap a little bit in the wind. So now if we get into the tactical version, what that does is it drops the 1000D in the impact areas, and you also lose the double 500D in the seat. What that does is it makes the garment a little bit more wearable, it's a little bit less stiff, and it's just a little bit lighter. Now the stealth version, same thing again, we dropped the 3M reflective material. So again, the R3 is available in a standard version, tactical, and stealth. Now if we talk about the R3 Lite, what that does is pretty much a different construction. It's a much lighter, more wearable construction. So what that is, instead of 500D Cordura, we've now gone down to 200D Cordura, which Aerostich says is roughly 2/3 the abrasion resistance of the 500D. Now you do get a double layer of that 200D in the shoulders, elbows, and knees. So you're at 400D Cordura, which is a little bit less than the 500, but still pretty good. The stealth version, again, we dropped the 3M reflective, same as you saw in the R3 and the Classic. And then the tactical version basically just drops that double 200D in the shoulders, elbows, and knees. So you end up with a full garment that's just 200D. Still waterproof, still Gore-Tex like the Classic and the R3, but a much lighter, more flexible garment, probably a little bit more comfortable. It's probably a little bit better in the heat as well, as the Gore-Tex in these can be a little bit stifling in 80 degrees and humidity. Okay, so we talked a little bit about pricing, we talked a little bit about features. Now let's talk about some of the color options. So this is the gray with the black. You can always get the ballistics change. They've got blue, they've got red, there's a high vis option, and there's a couple others. I think there's a tan as well. So color-wise, the red and the blue are the only ones I've seen that fade over time. So within a year or two, they can potentially start to fade. Doesn't affect any functionality of the garment, but just doesn't quite look as pretty. So be aware of that if you're gonna order a blue or a red one. Now the high visibility is super sharp. It's always a good thing to be more visible in traffic. But what'll happen with the high visibility is it tends to get a little bit dirty looking. So it doesn't necessarily fade, but because it's a high vis yellow, as you wear the suit and it can get a little bit dirty, some of that just can't come out. Now some other options to be aware of. One, Aerostich does essentially tailor these for you if you want, or you can buy an off the rack size. So from a tailoring perspective, the things that I like to recommend if you're gonna be riding a sport bike is forward rotated sleeves. What that does is adds a little bit more material in the shoulder so that when you're leaned over and forward, it just gives you a little bit more flexibility in the shoulder. The other thing you can do that's pretty common is you can add side gussets that give you a little bit more room around the waist, so as you're bending over or manipulating on the bike, it just gives you a little bit more room. Now they also have the ability to move armor up and down, shorten sleeve length, shorten legs. So there's a bunch of different options that are available from a tailoring perspective that Aerostich will do for you. Now be aware, if you do order a garment and tailor it, you're probably not going to be able to return that garment. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the armor. So by default, you're going to get shoulder, elbows, and knees in that TF armor. And then optional, there's hip armor and there's a back protector. Aerostich has two different versions of the back protector. There's a thinner one and there's a little bit larger one that gives you a little bit more spine and kidney protection. And like I said, there's the optional hip armor. That hip armor actually looks like this. So it's a pretty sizable piece, and it protects your hip pretty well. So you've got some really good coverage here from the hip armor. It's flexible, it's pretty nice armor. Now when we talk about the TF armor, you can get that in a couple different variants. So there is TF3, which is a standard armor, which has a hard plastic shell on it, but then the actual armor piece itself is still fairly flexible. Then there's also TF2, and this is actually my preference to run in a suit. I find that it's a little bit more comfortable and it just makes the suit nicer to wear. So this is also considered a low temp, so it does better in the lower temperatures. The TF3 and some of the other ones can get a little bit stiff. They still bend, but it just has a little bit more resistance to it. The TF2 does a lot better in colder temps. So again, I like to wear the TF2. The TF3 does technically have more impact resistance, but I just find the TF2 to be more comfortable. There's also a TF6 option. What I'll do is below this video, I'll send you a link to Aerostich's site where they actually go through all the different armors, the impact ratings, what you're giving up, the temperature ratings, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we talked about pricing, features, colors, optional armor, some of the options that are available. Now I think what we should do is go ahead and put this on and run you through a few more of the features in detail and kind of show you what it looks like. Okay, so now we've got the suit on, so let's talk a little bit about some of the features as I've actually got it on now. So we've already gone through the construction and some of those things. So let's go top to bottom and we'll talk about some of the features available. So first we've got a collar. The collar is very nicely lined. It's very soft against your skin. It doesn't cause any irritation. You've also got a hook and loop closure to close the collar. And then if you notice, I kind of have the collar popped, for lack of a better term. One of the nice things though is if you look on the side here, there actually are little snaps that go around the back that allow you, if you do want to fold the collar over, it'll actually stay down and so it won't come up on you all the time. There's also a nice little strap here for that hook and loop to tuck underneath so that's not flapping in the wind. And again, in the Classic, there is no magnet in the collar here, but on the R3 and the R3 Lite, there is a magnet to kind of help keep that collar down. Now, from a ventilation standpoint, you obviously have your main zipper here, which I've got down a little bit for the microphone. There's also Under Armour vents, so I've got those open. And then on the back, where you see that big 3M reflective strip, that is actually a vent as well. So underneath that 3M reflective strip, there's an entire zipper length to get a vent there. Now, if you unzip the jacket a little bit in the front, you've got your elbows open and you've got that back vent, you actually can get some pretty good airflow through here. But it is a Gore-Tex garment, so if it's pretty humid out, you might suffer a little bit. So that's it from a ventilation standpoint. Going down a little bit further, you can see that there's a little carabiner here with this pocket over here. So you've got a pretty good sized pocket here and there's a nice little carabiner that you can hang your keys on. One of the things I really like about the Aerostich is there's a pass-through right here. So if you get off the bike, you take your gloves off, you can take those, shove that through there without having to put them in a pocket, and it's a very nice place to tuck your gloves. Now on the right side here, there's a very large chest pocket. So this is waterproof since the outside of the garment's Gore-Tex. So you can throw your phone in here or a map or something. There is also a pocket on the inside on the right here that can be used for your phone as well. Then it's basically inside 2 layers of Gore-Tex as opposed to a single layer on the outside. Now also on the sleeves, there is a Velcro cuff here that helps adjust some of the thickness of that cuff. And then you also have a zipper here to tighten up the cuff as well. Now you'll also see on the right side here, I do have a little pocket here. It's a good place to tuck earplugs or other things. And then again on the left side, you've got the same hook and loop closure on your cuff and the zipper on the side here as well. Then pocket-wise here, you've got 2 front large cargo pockets on there, as well as hand warmer style pockets on the side as well. That pretty much wraps it up for the jacket. Moving on to the pants, you've got your main zipper, your fly. You do have a pocket here on your right thigh, and on the left side you actually have Velcro. So Aerostich sells an accessory that's a clear map pocket that you can strap to your left thigh so that when you're on the bike you've got a map there as well, so you don't have to have a tank bag. That's pretty much it from a pocket standpoint and a vent standpoint. Now in terms of getting the garment on and off, one of the things that's really nice about Aerostich is they are relatively easy to do. Now the two-piece does attach with essentially what they call a 360 zipper. It basically starts here and ends over here, so it is pretty good coverage as it goes all the way around. Now in terms of getting a two-piece off, obviously you unzip the jacket is now free. In terms of your pants, you have two zippers. Both of them you want to zip from the bottom up. So the right one comes up to about your crotch, and that's basically opens up your right leg, and then the left one actually comes all the way up through the fly to basically open up that entire left side. So let me show you kind of what that looks like. So if we do the right side, that opens up my right leg, and then the left one, basically that pops it all the way, and now the suit is free. Now to get out of it, it's relatively simple. Take your left arm out first, which frees your left side, pull your right arm out, step out of the garment. Now to put it on, it's the same process. You take your right leg, step through, then your right arm, then your left shoulder, and then you zip all the way up. Now if you have a one piece, that actually is a single zipper that goes all the way from the top to the bottom. Okay, so that about wraps it up for the Roadcrafter by Aerostich. I do think it's a great garment for the price. You are north of that $1,000 mark, but you are getting a full Gore-Tex garment as a result of that. And I do think in terms of commuting, if you're riding to and from work or to the grocery store, this is one of the better garments out there because of how easy it is to get on and off. Some of the other gear that I wear when I go on weekends and other stuff just isn't commuter friendly because you can't wear pants underneath. But it is a lot more technical gear, I would say, than this. But we're also talking about significantly more expensive gear, which I'll have some videos on later. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe below, and I'll see you next time.